Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to learn the epistolary novel, part 5th. That is, in the previous lectures, we learned about epistolary novel, the development of the epistolary novel from the classical literature to the 18th, 19th, and 20th century. Now we are going to learn that is the first part of it, that is definition and some examples of the epistolary novel. See, what is the definition of epistolary? Epistolary. Epistolary comes from a Greek word epistole, which means letter. Remember this word and spelling of it for your objective type questions. Epistolary is a literary genre pertaining to letters, in which writers use letters, journals, and diary entries in their works, or they tell their stories or deliver messages through a series of letters. Though the usual format of epistolary is letters, writers sometimes use other forms of document such as newspaper clippings and diary entries. Recently, writers also use electronic documents like emails, blogs, radio broadcasts, and recordings. But we are going to learn and understand for the purpose of our learning, that is epistolary novel, and how the letter form is become the novel form. They never remember, the writer never write down the letters individually and only one letter. They write down those letters in the form of the episodes. That's why it is called as a epistolary novel. What is the function of epistolary? Epistolary from form can add realism to a narrative as it imitates real life workings. It is therefore able to describe different points of view. The primary function of this form of writing is to give readers an intimate view of characters' feelings and thoughts and develop a direct connection with the events through letters without interference of the author. So here we can understand how the characters' feelings and thoughts are important one. In the previous lectures, we also seen the particular characteristics of the epistolary novel, that is the letters related to the emotions and the feelings of the characters who wrote that letters. This technique thus makes the literary piece a real experience for the readers. Also, a presentation of events from different viewpoint gives the story verisimilitude and dimension. So, here we can understand how epistolary novel points out the particular characteristics, that is the emotions and feelings of the characters. At the same time, the social events described in it is the important one, and the real life experiences explained in that letters. So it is become intimate form of the society in the 18th and 19th century, and especially for the women writers, it shows their emotions and feelings which they cannot say openly in the society. Examples of epistolary in literature, that is example first, the color Purple by Alice Walker. All of us know this novel very well, the famous novel The Color Purple. Alice Walker's novel The Color Purple is a good example of an epistolary novel in which an impoverished black teenage girl, Sally, tells her story through writing letters to both her sister and God. So, see here how the imagination is bring out with the help of the reality, that the she wrote letters to her sister, and the god also. Here, readers can learn about the difficult life of Sally through her words and the direct experiences she has faced. Alice Walker has chosen to let the readers encounter the story by using Sally's voice, providing Sally a power that she could not have in everyday life. However, in the film adaptation of this novel, these letters echoed through the monologues of characters. So, see, through the letters, there is a presentation of emotions and feelings, and as well as Alice Walker gives the extra powers to the characters in this form. Next example, Frankenstein. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein started Mary Shelley started her first novel, Frankenstein, in the form of letters. It is first novel of Mary Shelley. She uses three narratives or perspectives that allow readers to form opinions about the narrative. The first narrator is Robert Walton, who gives his point of view about Victor. Robert records the confession and narrative of Victor when he is dying. The second narrator is Victor himself, who gives his point of view about Walton. Finally, the creature disrupts Victor, and readers get its viewpoint. It is Walton who starts and ends this novel by relating a series of events through letters to his sister, creating suspense by using the word demon. The letters of Victor and the monster's perspective, on the other hand, give frames to the main body of the narrative. So, in this particular novel, Frankenstein, it creates the suspense as it creates the real life experiences of the narrator, and there is a three narrators, first, second, and third. That is, the first is Victor, second first is Walton, second is Victor, and third again the Walton, and it is a completed the plot of the novel. Example third, Dracula, one of the most famous novel by Bram Stoker in popular literature. Bram Stoker has employed epistolary format in his successful and widely recognized novel 19th Century Dracula. The author has compiled the entire novel in the form of letters, newspaper clippings, diary entries, doctor's note, telegrams, and ship's logs. So, here all the forms of the letters are included in this particular novel. The narrators of this novel are protagonists who supplement it with newspaper clipping to relate different events. So, when we read this particular novel, we understand how it is relates to each events related to each other, though it is used the newspaper clippings, diary entries, and the form of letters. So, although this novel draw on letter form, it reduces the end of the narrative. Next example, Pamela by Samuel Richardson. Samuel Richardson's novel Pamela is another notable example of such novels in which you would find the device of epistolary. In this novel, Pamela attempts to run away from her lecherous master, Mr. B. Whenever her master tries to seduce her, she expresses her insecurities to impoverish the parents by writing them letters. So, in this novel, Pamela also a woman and write down about her feelings and emotions to her parents. Mr. B, however, intercepts her letters and gives her parents the wrong information by shifting her to another estate. And there she begins writing a journal, hoping that one day she would send it to her parents. By the end, Mrs. Jacques finds letters written by Pamela and gives them to Mr. B, who realizes Pamela's pious character, changes his mind, and decides to marry her. Here we can understand how plot developed through the letters only. Example number 5, that is the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. All of us very much familiar with this example. A teenage girl, Anne Frank, wrote Diary of a Young Girl recording her experiences during World War II. She recounts her feelings and thoughts, including some important and some trivial details. After a month while writing this diary, Anne, along with her family members, was forced into hiding in some building in Amsterdam to avoid religious persecution at the hands of the Nazis. So here, through these letters, we can understand the events in the society, that is the situation at the time of the World War II, and how Anne Frank and her family suffered in this particular period of World War II, and she explained those experiences in her diary and named as a diary of a young girl. So, however, all of them died in 1944 except her father Otto Frank, who had her diary published in 1947. Anne Frank's diary format provides the readers an intimate insight into Anne's feelings and thoughts during tough times. It is also remarkable in that Anne describes her dreams and hopes through historical context. So, what is the historical context? That is the situation of the World War II, and we can understand here how particular writers wrote the epistolary novels and it became famous one, and it developed the plot in the later form. So here we can understand what is the epistolary novel, what is the development of epistolary novel, and famous examples, popular examples of epistolary novel. Here we end about our epistolary novel. Read more about the epistolary novel, and in the next lecture we will learn the next part or the next novel which is prescribed for your semester 6.